Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, guys, I'm going to try and conclude on the third part of Elon Musk and the artificial intelligence AI agenda. I've had a few requests for me to finish it off. There seems to be a lot of interest around this particular subject matter. So let's finish it off, inshallah.
That is absolutely insane. When the Constitution was written,
Actually, hold on, guys. Let me just upload it. Otherwise, it will pause. So at 9340. Oh goodness. Okay, guys. Sorry about that. Skip the ad. 9340. That'll do just fine.
Because they control you through your neurolace nanoparticle electronic machines connected to your neurons and control the firing of your neurons, control the pathways of your neurons, then easily they can control your buying and selling and everything else about you.
that is absolutely insane. When the Constitution was written, these guys were worried about people taking hold of other people and putting them in a jail. They never had anything like this where they're going to take over from the inside out. I mean, this is
right.
Absolutely insane. We dropped the ball somewhere along the line, Anthony. We definitely dropped the ball, and they have taken over. And there's no, I mean, the way they put it out there every day there's some new development, there's something else that you need to have. They don't care anymore. They are right out in the light right now. So it has to be close.
When people turn away from God, this is the consequence of it.
Right. And that's what I mean. We dropped the ball. We dropped the ball big time.
We talk about how Lucifer uses a mirror, how Lucifer copies everything that God created. Well, this is a prime example. You take C60 carbon and you copy the amino acid based neurons of a human brain. You use a different material, but you're copying the construct of the human brain in order to create an artificially intelligent computer or brain that not only competes with a human, but dominates the human brain.
Right.
Because we've talked about the dumbing down of people, the dumbing down of the human brain. Well, if you want an artificial computer to compete with a human, how do you compete? Well, you reduce the capabilities of your competitor, reduce the capabilities of the human, and then, as Elon Musk was trying to warn, or maybe he wasn't warning, who knows, the AI will far exceed the human brain and render humans as cats, as pets.
Right.
So he's trying to say, hey, you don't want to be left behind. So take the neural lace, take the nanoparticle nanomachines, so that you can be a step ahead of the artificially intelligent computer. Well, guess what? They're selling you a bill of goods.
Right.
It's like, they're trying to bait and switch you.
Right.
Once they have you, they control you.
Right. If you take this neural lace, you'll be able to compete with the AI, when in fact this will just allow the AI to control you like a remote control car.
Bingo.
See, so the antithesis is the AI, and then you take the neural lace, and you're the thesis in this arrangement of the Hegelian dialectic.
Wow.
You got it.
Wow. This is just so much. We're going to have to come back on this all again with a little bit more in depth, believe it or not. But this is just absolutely insane. There's one more thing I wanted to go over, that this is something that I had brought out back in early March of 2016, where I had found someone had sent me the patents to the simulated sun simulator. The sun simulator they had, And a lot of people have been covering how the sun doesn't look the same anymore. Well, I got an email and they sent me this link to Boeing. And if you watch this Boeing 2016 video, it's showing the Earth 100 years from now. And it's showing the satellites in outer space that are reflecting the sun. I'm going to try to do this slow. See this? I showed you this earlier. The sun's bouncing off this sun satellite. They call it a solar satellite in the video. And it's directing it back down straight at Earth. And in the video, they show several of them. 1, 2, 3. So I'll leave a link to that as well. This is crazy. I'm not feeling too great today, Anthony. This doesn't improve my morale at all. It just doesn't.
Yeah. It can be depressing. There has to be a balance in our life, and sometimes you just have to walk away from all of this stuff and just go out and get connected outside and do something different.
Well, I do that. I usually spend half of the day, or I'll spend a couple of weeks at a whack, but I can't stop making videos. I'm just driven. I don't know why. And you get a lot of flack for it. But this stuff's coming out so fast. I mean, we planned on doing this once a week, and we're actually doing it twice a week now. You know what I mean? It's coming out so fast. I wouldn't be surprised if it's once a day until they pull the plug on us.
Yeah. There is an awful lot of information that we can cover, but gosh, we do have a life outside of doing this.
Anyways, I'm going to jump. Unless you have anything else that's pressing, I'm going to ask.
No, but your satellite you had up there. I think that the question I put to you off the air was, perhaps this is what we're seeing when people are taking photographs of what they think is Nibiru or Nibiru's approach, and we both agree that if Nibiru was close enough to be photographed the way it is, the electromagnetic effects. People want to talk about gravity. Forget about gravity. The electromagnetic effects, the gravitational pull is 10 to the 39th power less than electromagnetism. The electromagnetism, the attractive force of Nibiru would be such that we would be having massive earthquakes and pole shift and whatever else you want to talk about.
The Earth
if it was close
trembling.
Photograph.
I mean,
yeah.
I've seen, you've seen, there's a lot of people that take NASA images and they show this, this barely visible image, and they think that it's Nibiru. If it was that close, the Earth would be shaking apart. It wouldn't be earthquakes in various places. It would be earthquakes everywhere.
Yeah, and the sun would be dramatically affected as well. And I had never seen this information that you presented from Boeing here. I commend you on your research. Could be explaining what we're seeing in the skies that people are photographing are these reflections off of satellites from the sun itself.
I've done various uploads. In fact, I've done a few recently as well, talking about the solar sun simulator and also these lenses that redirect the focal point of these celestial bodies that have been seen in the heavens. Interesting. I'll certainly look this up and do an upload on it, go directly to that particular channel, and you guys can watch it at some point, inshallah.
I don't know, but it's certainly fascinating and worth examining. If they're being that public about this process, they're trying to say...
They're calling these solar satellites like they're no big deal and everybody knows about them. And they're showing multiple. And you had asked if they were using them to terraform Mars. They're clearly showing them right over Earth right here.
Yeah.
These make sense. Because
when they said terraform Mars, they basically, what they mean by that is make it inhabitable, create an atmosphere, create an ecosystem, create life there. An organic life in terms of harvesting plants and stuff like that. That's basically what he's alluding towards.
Because a lot of people are seeing a lot of wacky stuff in the same spot every time in the air. You know what I mean? I spend a lot of time looking at the sky every single night. And there's a lot going on up there that doesn't make sense, and it didn't used to be there.
Yeah, you have shown quite a few stationary, multicolored objects in the night sky.
Well, this would make sense of it all.
See, so these are very competent researchers, right? So I mean, it's not just a belief held in the conspiracy theory circles, as it were, or community, as it were. Rather, there's very competent individuals who are basically drawing the same conclusions, right? Far more competent than many people, and they're drawing these conclusions. So we have to lend them an ear and find out why they're doing this.
Because with this prism, well, watch this. You see that right there?
Okay,
that would reflect.
I've never ever come across this. Never ever come across this. Right, this is the first time I'm seeing this one on, and it was shared to me by Peerby. And this particular video was uploaded only a week ago. You'll find that I've already shared with you this upload on the channel from my own findings as well as the findings of a physicist and a very competent researcher called Jeff P, who basically certainly opened up the research on this particular technology and brought it to the fore and suggested that this is what they're possibly doing. And we're seeing the red petals around our sun. I've shared that upload just a couple of uploads ago on the channel where we show this technology again, which are basically panels, right, that are reflecting the light of the sun back onto our surface. So at the moment our sun is being obscured, cloaked. Why? Is because it's sharing a barycenter with a primary star. They don't want us to see that star and our sun together. Obviously they don't, because they intend to take advantage and exploit the natural disasters that will occur on the onset of this particular star once it's out in its trajectory back out to where it came from. And they need that. They're counting on that with the scheming and the planning that they're doing. And then, in addition to that, I mean, the sun is waning, right? Because its surface energy is being drained by this primary star, as well as other anomalies that are occurring right now in our solar system. So they don't want us to see that. They don't want us to find that out. Okay, because then there's going to be a move and a drive and an initiative towards humanity uniting, humanity coming together, humanity putting in place contingencies. Because I mean, if there's a threat other than what's on the surface level of Earth that could impact everyone without discrimination, that gives cause for us to unite under one umbrella. And not only does it do that, but also we can maybe curb and limit the impact and the disasters that would occur by having solutions in place to limit the damage that would occur during its passage. In other words, maybe perhaps come to the conclusion that we do need to move away from the coastlines. We do need to be maybe 1,000 feet above sea level. We do need to basically stock up on non-perishable goods, right? We do need to be basically maybe move out of this currency that we're in and all our exposures that we have in terms of our assets and try to convert them into Sunnah currency. When I say Sunnah currency, I mean the dinar and the dirham. When I say the dinar and the dirham, I mean gold and silver, real gold and silver that we can hold and maybe and touch. Because this is the sort of currency that will have any sort of intrinsic value when they basically cause this economic collapse, which is on the horizon at the same time, and World War III at the same time. And all of this is scripted by the elitists, right? And it's to stage this with a false extraterrestrial contact, as I understand it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
All sorts of colors, and that's exactly what they show in the patent that I found from the early, I think it's the late 60s. I put a video up in March that showed all this stuff, and actually now Boeing's showing it. So apparently Boeing's involved, I would imagine.
If they're putting it out for public consumption, then it's been there for a long time. And that's funny. They're showing the advancement in aircraft and spacecraft. That's cool. As far as the subject of Nibiru, I do think that Nibiru exists. I do think it's entering our solar system. I do tend to think that it is wormwood in the book of Revelation and in other books of the Bible. But I don't think it's quite as close as we might think from the photographic evidence, as we have just said. So I think they're showing us what we're seeing in the sky now, and we'll get to the elevator here in a minute, but I think we are seeing the reflections coming off of these satellite-based mirror systems. The question is, why do they reflect the sun's energy directly to certain pinpoints on the planet? And that's where my research is going to go next.
Right, because all of us are old enough to remember. I mean, this is insane to
even if we refer to the Surah An-Najm, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in conclusion says, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرُوا اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. They plan, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also plans, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners. And if you consider what hypothesizing, I understand, is what's happening during the incoming passage of this binary system, and the sort of plans and the scheming that they're doing. Subhanallah. If this is indeed what's at the center of all of this, then what I understand, they've been scheming and planning around the incoming passage of this binary system for around 50 to 60 years now, and everything that we've seen on the Ummah since has been basically centered around the incoming passage of this binary system. Everything that includes commonly, I guess, the most popular of all those schemes and plots against the Ummah is 9/11 that we experienced. All of this, right, was to basically create certain changes back here in different regions of the world, so that they can basically have ensure that the land's fertile for the arrival of the man of perdition, the man of lawlessness, the deceiver, the antichrist, the Dajjal, lanatullahi alayhi. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
even have to say this. We remember when the sun was yellow. I live on the ocean, and if you look outside, some days it's so white outside that it's glaring. It's not the same sunlight at all. What I asked you before we went live was, if these things, and I mean, they're showing it. Boeing wouldn't show this in a YouTube video that anyone has access to if they didn't already have the patent on it and it wasn't already done, because there's a great idea right there. They're not like that. They don't give away anything for free that they don't already have it locked down with a patent.
Yep.
If these things are providing us with sunlight, and I'm 99% sure they are, how the hell did the sun get knocked away that we need these now? You know what I mean? Like, what happened? Is that a little bit too big of a question?
No, I think if the position of the sun relative to the Earth had changed from what it was 10, 20 years ago, there would be an awful lot of electromagnetic effects that we would be experiencing, not only earthquakes, but massive changes to our magnetosphere beyond what people conjecture to be the changes caused by CERN on the magnetosphere. And we'll get into that subject in a moment, because that's somewhat of a segue, but that's going to come up in just a few minutes. We would see a lot more changes to here on the Earth, is my summation of that. I think the sun is still in its relative position, but the color of the sun and what is being allowed in terms of energy from the sun has changed because principally the chemtrail spraying, the aerosolized spraying in the atmosphere.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This right here almost knocked me out of my chair, but then it didn't, because when I saw this, I said, there it is. That's what I've been telling people about for 9 months, that no one seems to care about. I think it's kind of a big deal that they're using artificial sunlight, because the sun gives us things that we need to stay alive. And I think
so. They're saying that this is 100 years from the present time, that this is projection. Well, the rate of advancement of technology that we've already experienced, it's ridiculous to say it's 100 years in the future. It's more like it's either today or it could be just a couple of years from now, because of how we get these quantum leaps, this exponential increase in advancement of technology. But they always do that. They put it out and say, oh, it's 100 years from now. That's just a cover story.
This right here, The elevator. Yeah. This was a big topic about I think about a year ago. The space elevator.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give this too much credence because what in the world could you make something like this to go to the moon with?
Yeah, that does. It's funny. This is something that Buckminster Fuller talked about, and something that Arthur C. Clarke picked up on from Buckminster and wrote about. And these are carbon nanotubes.
That's what I knew you were going to say. That's what I knew you were going to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a carbon. Many people are familiar with carbon fiber.
Yeah, I just want to jump in real quick, Anthony. I just got an update that there's a 6.0 magnitude earthquake that just hit as we were talking about it in Visso, Italy. It's 2 miles northwest of Visso, Italy. 6.0 magnitude. Just got that on my phone. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. I'm just wondering.
How many times have I interrupted and said there was just an earthquake as we were talking about it?
Well, didn't that happen with the last 6.0 that happened in Italy? We were on the air.
Yes.
I'm wondering if this one is close in proximity to that other earthquake.
I'll find out afterwards. I'm sure it'll be covered by the time we get off, so it doesn't.
Well, Italy's not very big, so yeah, it's probably close enough to say that it's close. Italy's so small. That's fascinating. Yeah. So twice now that we've been talking about this stuff that it gets triggered. If it's at 10 kilometers depth on average, give or take, if it's around 10 kilometers, that's HAARP.
Yeah.
It's a HAARP signature. People will say now, that was caused by CERN and all that. So let's segue into CERN. Let's talk about CERN.
Have at it.
There's been an awful lot of stuff put out lately about the magnetosphere. Big representations of the satellite data streaming to us that represent what the magnetosphere looks like and the magnetic lines of force. And there's been an awful lot of discussion about the magnetosphere and these magnetic lines of force, the shields, if you will, being dramatically changed in terms of looking at the screen from the right, where the sun is supposed to be, and then bombarding the planet Earth in the center, and then streaming to the left of the screen in these long tendrils of representations of magnetic lines of force in our magnetosphere. And people are saying that's CERN. Now, you guys know that I have said that yes, the superconducting magnets, 8.3 Tesla, 100,000 times stronger lines of magnetic force than the magnetosphere of the planet. Yes, CERN does change the morphology, the shape of our magnetosphere and our magnetopause. What I'm saying today is what we're seeing in terms of changes to the shields is not CERN. This is indicative of the approach of Nibiru. Even though it is so far out, you have to appreciate that magnetic lines of force extend millions of miles from their source. And those magnetic lines of force are both created by the Earth and the Sun, but they're also created by Nibiru itself. And Nibiru is considerably larger than the planet Earth. What you're seeing are two magnets attracting one another. You are seeing the magnetic lines of force from Nibiru reaching out and attracting the magnetic lines of force, our shields, away from the planet. CERN could not produce the extent of change, the distance of these lines of force emanating out into the cosmos to the extent that we're observing them now. This is an effect of Nibiru.
Wow. I remember you were saying that if CERN was affecting the magnetopause to the extent that it shows up on certain days, it would be like that every day because CERN's not doing anything different than they have been doing for the last, it's almost over a year now, correct?
That's correct. So they've been operating at 13.5 tera electron volts, or 13 on average, let's say. Therefore, you would see the types of changes to the magnetosphere that we're seeing right now. You would have seen that a year ago, and everywhere in between. But they have not changed the amount of power that's being produced. They're not doing anything different. So why would you expect the magnetopause and the magnetosphere to look any different than the changes that they already produced during the last 12 months?
Right.
These and the magnets just don't. That these are niobium and tin, and they're going to change them to neobium and titanium. Or excuse me, they're titanium now, and they're going to go to tin. Then you might see some significant changes. In fact, you would see more enhanced changes to the magnetosphere when they go to niobium and tin, which is 20 Tesla, maybe as high as 30 Tesla in its magnetic lines of force.
Wow.
However, we're only at 8.3 Tesla right now with the niobium and titanium configuration materials being used as superconducting magnets at CERN. So these dramatic changes don't come from CERN. Certainly CERN is making smaller changes, but not to the extent that we're seeing right now.
Well, good. I'm glad you covered that up, because I made the same mistake with the museum that's at CERN. Looks exactly like I asked you this in person, this looks exactly like the top of a Tesla tower. And I think I asked you that live also, and afterwards I got a lot of emails from people that said, I've actually, visited CERN, you get the tour, all that stuff, and that place is just in a wooden structure that's a museum and a gift shop, actually. There's no large cables or any sort of grounding, anything like that looks like it would tie in, because these people are looking for this stuff because they've been following for years. So,
well, as I said to you, we try to expose the fact that the real science that's being done at CERN is based on Tesla technology. It's electromagnetism. It's plasma. This is all Tesla. And yet when they talk about the science that they're conducting to the public, they talk about black holes, dark matter, dark energy, and gravity, not electromagnetism.
Which are all things that are theories. They talk about this like it's a proven fact. All of them are theoretical. Read Sir Isaac Newton's book on gravity. It starts with an if and ends with an if. You know what I mean? There's no proof. They teach it like it's like evolution. Same.
Right. They want to say that 96% of the known universe is comprised of dark matter and dark energy, and only about 4% is what we experience and interact with in our physical realm or manifestation. Well, first of all, even black holes remain theoretical.
Right.
None of it's been detected. None of it's been measured. None of it's been experimentally reproduced. Therefore, you cannot prove the theory. It remains on the blackboard as a theory. Even black holes, they want to talk about, there were two black holes that just recently merged, and we've got this, waves of energy. What they're trying to say really is gamma rays, X-rays, microwaves. These waves of energy, that are pulsing through the universe right now and hitting us, 3 waves at a time, and another day, another 3 waves. They're saying these are coming from 2 black holes that have merged. Well, sorry to say, they're not black holes, first of all, because it's not been proven. And second of all, it's what's known as Z-pinch plasma. These are charged particles in plasma that form what's called a Z-pinch. So people can go Google that. I won't explain the whole thing right now. The point is, going back to this dome, okay, this is a tongue-in-cheek, tip of the hat acknowledgement to Tesla. They're playing a game with the public. They're saying, ha, we put up this dome, which is the top of the Wardenclyffe Tower that Tesla built, to tap into the ether, the plasma of the universe, so that you can conduct and receive signals, communications, and draw energy from the ether, from the plasma. An inexhaustible supply of energy is what he was trying to tap into with the tower. It wasn't just radio transmissions, but the top of the tower is why they built the Museum of Science and Industry, so to speak. Innovation, the Museum of Innovation at CERN at ground level, because they're playing a joke on you. Right. They're saying, ha, this is Tesla's tower, but we're not going to tell you that we're using Tesla's technology.
Right. I fell for it.
We're going to tell you we're using Einstein.
I fell for it because it appears to be a natural. I asked you that same thing. I think the first time that we met, I asked you if this was just a buried version of this. And then you explained it to me. And then like I said, I got 3 separate emails from people that had visited the place, and they said, no, it's not like that at all. It doesn't have the structure to back that up. You know what I mean?
Correct. Correct.
It's just a wooden building. You can see through it right here.
Yeah, and people want to say, well, there's a rod that extends down to a huge capacitor at the bottom. Yeah, and at the top that there's this clear this clear opening at the very top of the dome, and that from there they're going to project, energy. They're going to project, electricity through the top of it. No, it all it is just it's a play. It's like I say, they're tipping their hat. They're acknowledging to those that are in the know, we're using Tesla technology. That's all that it is. It's just saying, hey, we acknowledge that Tesla had it right. Einstein didn't. For public consumption, they'll put out the Einstein model, the gravity-based model of science and the universe as a whole, when in fact they know full well the real operation, the real mechanics of the universe are electromagnetism. The void of space is filled with plasma and charged particles in the form of Birkeland currents for communicating them, for transmitting them. This has all been proven out by the scientists and the engineers at the Thunderbolts Project. I'm not a spokesperson. I just simply build on the shoulders of their work. Fantastic work. But one of the things that I've mentioned many times before that is going on at CERN, that is public, is the AWAKE experiment, a linear accelerator using plasma Wakefield technology to accelerate particles. So anybody that's paying attention can see for themselves that they're using Tesla technology in the form of this linear accelerator called the AWAKE linear accelerator.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, comparatively speaking, compared to the Large Hadron Collider, this thing's nothing. It's only 30 meters long, and it's supposed to, it's going to, I don't even know how you say it. It's going to up the power by 100 times. That's amazing.
Well, it's 1,000 times actually. Yeah, it will produce from the collisions at a target, which is the north field in the center of the main ring. It will produce 1,000 times the energy that the larger 27-kilometer, 17-mile long linear ring-based synchrotron particle accelerator. They've actually joined the two technologies. They've joined the synchrotron, the ring, to the linear,
right,
in order to achieve this 1,000-fold increase in power. They're going from 13 tera-electron volts today to 20 peta, that's quadrillion, 20 peta-electron volts that will be realized by impacting the target at the north field in the center of that main ring.
Now, I asked you why, and you explained that the Large Ring Collider only hits the veil with interrupted beams, and this will allow it to hit it with a steady beam, thus tearing the veil, thus the name AWAKE.
Correct. They are going to awaken those that are on the other side of the veil. That's why they call it AWAKE. They won't tell you, but just like the Alice detector, the Atlas detector, all these names are used for symbols, and they're used for power.
But it's just pure science, Tony Patch. There's no need for it, you know what I mean? But everything they do is named, mythological, everything. The joke's on us, Jack.
Yeah, and that's a whole long, deep, other discussion. just understand, just to wrap this up a little bit, they will take one of the circulating beams, and there are two that move in opposite directions. They'll take one of the circulating beams of particles, and they will feed it into this 30-meter long linear accelerator. So they take pre-accelerated particles and feed them into another accelerator, and using plasma wake fields, waves of plasma, to push to further accelerate these particles, and then direct that line of particles, as I said, at a target in the north field of the main ring. So the two machines have been joined.
Well, we're going to have to cover that the next time. So
Yep.
It looks like we're probably going to have to do this again in a day or two if we can make time.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
yeah, we will.
I think we've covered just about as much as we can cover in 2 hours.
I know the time goes by so quickly, but
it's amazing.
Yeah, I hope people will realize that we are now, with the quantum computers, we are now at the level of quantum biology. We now have a artificially intelligent computer that has the same number of qubits, 65,536, as there are tubulin dimmers within the neuron of a human brain. There is a reason that they chose that number of qubits, and that is to create the mirror image of our human brain. So when D-Wave talks about next year the release of a new model computer that will have 2,000 qubits in it, which more specifically is 2048, that's a model 2048 that they will announce early next year. Realize that that's for public consumption. Realize that they already have the spherical 600 cell quantum computer with 65,536 qubits. 1 qubit equals 1 human tubulin dimmer.
You have people in the chat saying that a meteor just slammed into Russia. I'm trying to find this.
A meteor?
Subject, yeah. And we just had a 6.0 earthquake.
6.0 that hit in Italy.
Italy and Russia just got hit with an earthquake. I can't find it. Has anybody got a link?
Well, let's hope it doesn't start World War III.
You know what I mean? Because I know they've got machines that can mimic that. I'm almost positive that was the beginning of Star Wars. All right, before we wrap this up, Anthony, is Revising Reality, do you have any copies of that left?
Oh, yeah, it's available on Amazon. If you go to my website, just click on the book cover. It'll take you to Amazon. It's been hovering around number 6 in the cosmology section. We're right in there with, Stephen Hawking and a bunch of other guys that we're always side by side with. The book has been selling well. My other 2 books are novels in a hopeful trilogy, but 2 novels, Covert Catastrophe and 2048, Diamonds in the Rough. And that one in particular, I get into talking about the 600-cell tetrahedron and AI computers and how they're linked through quantum entanglement. And that may be another discussion for another show, is how through quantum entanglement can the link-up take place between the AI computer and humans who accept the mark of the beast. Because through quantum entanglement, in the mark of the beast scenario, going back to the question that was posed about a half hour ago, to entanglement, that every human that accepts the mark of the beast will be linked and controlled by the quantum computer, because the quantum computer operates by the employment of quantum entanglement. That's the heart of it. That's the essence of how it operates. It uses quantum entanglement. Therefore, it will be quantum entangled with every human that accepts the mark of the beast.
Well, we're going to have to cover that another time. It's just odd that I got someone that wants to ask you about C7 carbon real quick, but before you tackle that one, Lloydie just left a comment in the chat, and it just answered a question I was thinking. it says that Italy refuses to put sanctions against Russia, and now they're hit with an earthquake. I was wondering what kind of legislation that they were trying to push on Italy, and it looks like that might be the answer.
Well, you know that Russia has at least one HARP device that's equivalent to the one in Glaucona,
right?
Alaska, that most people are focused on. But you know, there are HARP devices all throughout the world. In particular, there's a large one in Australia. So it could be that they're using HARP to hit at Italy, because I have said the 2011 earthquake in Japan was HARP induced, was HARP caused. This is Tesla technology. He built, one of the first things he built was an earthquake machine.
Right. No, I'm familiar. I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, I know you are. So it doesn't surprise me that maybe this was used in much the same fashion that, you know, Japan didn't want to play ball economically, currency-wise. Didn't want to play ball with the, you know, the central banks, and they got hit. Well, maybe that's what happened with Italy, is they got hit again, you know, because they didn't want to play ball with Russia. I don't know. That's just, you know, off the top of my head kind of stuff.
Well, I heard the exact same thing. But with, not only did they hit Russia with, Japan with an earthquake, they gave them the triple zinger. They got the earthquake, the nuke plant meltdown, and a tsunami. And that's actually one of the Illuminati cards. It's a three-prong attack or something. So it is a game for them, and we are being played. But some of us are waking up here. Okay, C7 carbon, Anthony, in 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, it's actually C70. There's C60 and C70. C70 carbon, when it forms nanotubes, and more specifically the soccer balls, the buckyballs, they are actually, rather than a sphere, they're ellipsoid. They're sort of an oval. Let's call them footballs. C70 are footballs, C60 are the soccer balls. That's an easy way to put it. They work very well together. C70 will also form carbon nanotubes. They can be used as binary structures. They can be zeros and ones, just like the soccer ball can be zeros and ones. You can use C70 as the quantum dimmers, if you will, the tubulin dimmers. The problem is that they're larger, and because of their shape, they tend to touch the walls, the inner walls of the single layer carbon nanotubes. And so they're really not looked upon as effective and as stable in quantum computing, and in generally, even in transistor-based classical computers. There's a thing called coherence and decoherence. That means decoherence leads to errors in computation. The errors increase when you use C70, and therefore the errors come from the touching of the walls of the carbon nanotubes. You have to have them suspended, and naturally C60, it will lay over slightly, it'll tilt, or it will even lay over completely sideways in its arrangement, because they pair. The soccer balls of C60 will pair up. It's like a covalent bond in chemistry. They'll naturally bond to each other. One is a 0 and one is a 1, and they form the equivalent of these dimmers, because the dimmers do much the same thing, although they're made of amino acids. So to have the best computational coherence, you want to use C60 soccer balls.
Nice. I didn't mean to rush you on that, Anthony. That was a very good. A lot of people are trying to tell me that your website's not working. I just opened it, no problem. It's anthonypatch.com. It's pretty straightforward, and it seems to be working for me.
Refresh it and see if it comes back up.
Yeah, good to go. All right, well, just like I said, it's anthonypatch.com. All three of his books are available, and if we do happen to lose the internet, I didn't even think of this. This was Anthony's idea. If you have it in hard copy, you'll still have it. So there's that. I can't find anything on this meteor, but I'm sure somebody else is already covering it. Can't cover everything all the time. I'd lose what's left of my mind.
You know, if people want something that's kind of entertaining as well as informative, I would recommend 2048 Diamonds in the Rough, because That's the one that I get into with the quantum computers, the 600 cell tetrahedron and the quantum entanglement. And it's a very fast paced, and I think it's only 110 pages, very fast storyline. But it does explain, what I'm talking about here in terms of how these quantum computers are built from C60 carbon, specifically nanodiamonds. Let me throw that in. Nanodiamonds are C60 carbon, and they use what's called a nitrogen void space inside the diamond to hold binary information. Go ahead.
I remember you talking about this years ago, and I just couldn't get my head around it. Now it's all public information. And there's a lot of people, I'm going to put this right out there, there's a lot of people that say Anthony's working for the dark side. Well, if he is, he sucks at his job, because everything you've said in the last 3 years is now easily found on the covers of Newsweek, Science Magazine, anything else. This is all information that's actually helped us in our fight. So I'm with Anthony till the wheels fall off. I don't know what else to tell you.
Thank you. Yeah, somebody actually put up a comment. I think it was our last video.
Okay, guys, I'm going to conclude at this because I think it's just niceties that have been exchanged towards the conclusion of this particular podcast. Again, I think someone requested a link, a direct link to this. Please, if you just punch in this title, Weekly Update to RFB and Anthony Patch, that should, I think, bring up this particular podcast for those of you who want to directly listen to the whole thing in one run without me annoying you in the foreground with some additional commentary. Anyway, Jazakallah khairan wa ahsanu al-jazaa for your time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.